Cent Podcast.
Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Before we get into today's spotlight interview featuring GreenGiant, I just wanted to give a shout out to this month's sponsor, who's none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Connie Digital. Everyone listening to the podcast should be familiar with Connie. He's been a guest on here once before. And if you don't know him, he's a legend in the cryptoart scene, and he's making waves now with his tokenized music. Just want to make sure that everyone checks out his website at danky.art. That's DANKY.art. And make sure that you sign up for his newsletter. And you can go to conniedigital.com/join to do that. That's CONNIEDIGITAL.com/join. That's it. Make sure you follow Connie Digital, and thank you again for supporting the show. So with that, let's begin today's episode. Okay, we're live. This is Matthew, and I'm back with another spotlight interview. Today, I'm really excited for my guest. He is an OG Centian. He hails back to the 2018 vintage on Cent. He's one of the longest standing Centians I've had the pleasure to interview. I'm sure anyone that has been on Cent for the last couple of months at least will recognize his posts, either in the Cent map or the latest crypto art that he's been sharing about. People that go back even further will be familiar with his thoughts on turning Cent into a bazaar, or his Music Monday posts. But I'm very excited to dive into everything Cent, crypto art, and beyond with GreenGiant. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, that was quite the intro. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know about you just because I've read your post for years on Cent, but I actually don't really know so much about your background. So I think it'd be really cool to introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit more about who GreenGiant is.
Yeah, so I go as GreenGiant on Cent. A lot of people call me GG, which is quite cool because I didn't tell anyone to call me GG, it just kind of happened. So it's always nice having a nickname given to you. But yeah, so I'm from Britain. I'm from England. I'm only 19 actually. I just turned 19 a week ago. So I've been at school and I've left school during the pandemic phase. So that was a bit of a weird time to leave school because they just kind of threw us out into the open. And I'm actually going to university in 2 days. So some big life changes are occurring, but it's all good. And yeah, so with Cent, I was very fortunate enough. So I was just kind of watching some crypto videos, as you do, being young and into technology, and just seeing the 2017 sort of bubble occurring. And I was just recommended a video on YouTube, and it was a review of Cent. I was like, oh, I'll just have a look. This looks kind of interesting because there's the big banner of income from anywhere. And as someone who's young and kind of wants some money, that was very appealing. Income from anywhere is a great slogan if you want someone to kind of look at what you're doing. So I had a look at it, and they did a review of Cent, and I just thought, wow, this is great. So I kind of got the MetaMask, got everything that I needed, and then just went on and made a few posts, and that's how I got to here, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is the case for a lot of folks. I mean, it was similar for me too. You find Cent, I mean, the mission statement is like you mentioned, super intriguing. It brings you here. And then you make your first post and there's the reaction. Like you have this kind of like thoughtful engagement from folks, especially with the old Cent in particular. I felt like that sort of community aspect was super vibrant. But then it kind of like sparks these other ideas like, wow, with on top of this base, you can kind of build out these other things, and people have like all these ideas. So I'm curious if you think back to like 2018 when you hopped on, what were some of the ideas that kind of were percolating in your mind as you're exploring and discovering like the nooks and crannies of Cent and what it offered at the time?
So yeah, early Cent, people were just making so many posts about so many things. I was just thinking, wow, this is such a vibrant community. There are so many people from so many places. in the world. So I thought, right, I'm gonna find a way to kind of showcase just how international this community is. So ScentMap was born, and that was just me asking people, where are you from, or where would you like me to put you on the map? And then loads of people would reply. And then over the years, it's evolved, where I'd kind of get more efficient. Because I remember first time I tried it, I just had no idea what I was doing. I just copy and pasted this world map picture from the internet, this awful looking map, and then just kind of had to copy and paste people's profile picture, because back then it was just a little circle of color. So that was the only way I could kind of showcase people, rather than kind of all the other ways now. And it just literally took me 2 hours just to get like 10 people on the map. Now it'll take me a few minutes, which is really cool. But yeah, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. Every week, more and more people were on it. And I remember I was really proud when it got to 50. I was like, oh, damn, this is a cool project. I hope people start to like it. And now it must be on, at least 400. It's taken a bit of a pause, but don't worry, I'll come back for sure. So if anyone's, listening to this on Scent, get ready, it's coming back. So yeah, early Scent, it wasn't very heavily based off crypto art, actually, which is probably quite surprising for a lot of people who have joined, recently in the past few months, or even like 6 months, I'd say. If you've joined, 2019 or before, you'll have some sort of idea of what I'm on about. But early Scent, man, there's just absolutely everything. So from poems, photography, just general. So I started talking about music quite a lot, because I'd say that's one of my main interests. So if anyone's heard of Music Mondays, that's what one of those is about. But yeah, just so many things, trading. So yeah, it was a vibrant community for sure.
Yeah, and it's the transition from like all the things and not being really a place for any one thing in particular, to all of a sudden crypto art just kind of like skyrocketing in terms of like posts being tagged under that channel, and more artists kind of like piling in and sharing their art. It was a really, really pretty startling transition. Probably started from the middle to end of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like it hit its peak sort of at the end of 2019, when you had a post that came out, was just like, what the hell is going on with all this art? Not for me.
Yeah, I feel like such a noob writing that. You can explain what that is, what I wrote.
But I think it's really interesting, though. I mean, within any community, especially when you're a member of an early community and you are able to watch a transition, and the early community that you kind of like loved in the first place and why you started using an app, watching that change in a way that you hadn't anticipated, hadn't expected, didn't necessarily think was the best way, perhaps. I think digging down into like your thought process at the time, I think that would be interesting. And then to where you are today, where like you're a selling artist, right? You've sold 3 works within the past week, right? 2 at a half ETH each, right? And one for to me the Scent and Grow Your Base work, which is awesome. So how do you go from that post at the end of 2019 till to where you are today as a selling artist?
Yeah, I guess I kind of started how I got to that awful post, thinking back at it.
I don't think it's awful at all, man. I think it was really honest more than anything.
True. Yeah, it was a good moment. Yeah, it's good actually thinking back on it. Kind of, it's funny. But I'll go back how I got to it. So, I was just on Scent, as you should do, and someone made a post about Pepe, which is this other crypto social media app based off Ethereum. But it was basically like TikTok, pretty much the same layout and everything. But when someone liked your video, you received it was like a peppercoin or something like that. And the founder of that, who kind of ended the whole project, so that was a bit sketchy. But so yeah, sense the one, everyone. He kind of he was very engaging, and he talked. I actually did a couple of interviews with him, like talking about Pepper and how it could improve, and based off some things that Cent, like what they could learn from Cent and everything. Don't worry, I wasn't giving too much info to the competition. And yeah, so I was making a lot of videos with them, and hence I wasn't on Cent for a while because I was kind of putting a lot of energy into making short 1 minute videos and getting quite a lot of peppercoin from it. So you could actually swap out the peppercoin for general things. So I bought some Amazon vouchers with it, which was cool. So I came back to Cent because I was like, I haven't been on. I'll check where the scenes are. So I probably wasn't on for a good 3 months, and then or something like that, maybe even longer. Who knows? I wasn't on for during the exam period as well because your mind just focused on other things. So I come back and all I see are just these NFTs everywhere, all these art pieces. I'm just like, what the? I just couldn't believe it. There's just art absolutely everywhere, and I'm a fan of art, so I wasn't really, complaining at all. But then I wasn't really into the NFT space yet, so I didn't really understand what it meant. So I was like, why are people purchasing these pieces for so much money? I was like, I was just completely blown away. I was like 10 ETH. I was like, who the hell would pay an image, like just for an image I can copy and paste? I was going through that. Oh, you can't own it. You can't do this. You can't do that. Then when I actually researched it a lot more, which is what you should do, I kind of began to realize, I was like, oh, okay, so you can't own it and all that and everything. And then I kind of, as the art and NFT space grew in sense, I kind of grew with it. And then someone introduced Pixel Chain, which is this quite nice little dApp where, it's like 32 by 32 canvas, 8-bit or whatever, and you make these little pixel pieces, as it were. So I made a few of those, and some people actually bought them, and I was like, oh, hold on, I can actually make money from this, right? So then I researched a bit more, and I was like, okay, this is clearly where it's going. This is clearly where it's at. So yeah, it was actually, and then someone introduced Magica Voxel, which is Pixel Chain, but just 3D. So I liked that. It was a good transition for me. I wasn't too overwhelmed, which I needed that. I needed the baby steps, because when I came onto Cent and all I saw was art, I was too overwhelmed. So it was nice that I was being taken through all the necessary things in baby steps. So I was making getting to learn Magic Voxel, which is a really good software. So I recommend it to lots of people. And it was my 250th post, actually, where I kind of made a piece on Magica Voxel. I would say that was probably one of my proudest posts, because I was like, oh man, I made this art piece. Oh, I'm so cool. Everyone on Cent's going to love me. It's going to be amazing. And Cent actually retweeted it. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm the man. This is awesome. And so yeah, I really enjoyed that post. And I kind of got a little bit addicted just to making art on a Magica Voxel and just making loads and loads of things. And then someone introduced me to Blender, and I was like, oh my, where do I even begin? I couldn't even move around. But if I would never thought I'd be making the pieces that I'm making today 6 months ago at all. It was actually quarantine that gave me the time to kind of develop what I wanted to and enhance my skills, because otherwise I'd be probably deep down reading a book about maths and physics, doing my exams, doing my A levels, and I'd just be having such a rubbish time. But this quarantine gave me the 6 months where I could just create, and I've created a lot, and some of them have been successful, some of them have not been successful at all, but you've got to learn from those as well. So it's just a process, and as you said, I've managed to sell a couple of pieces worth 0.5 Ethereum, which is massive. I would never thought I could do that, but yeah, it's kind of, I've got university in 2 days, and that's a big change for anyone that's been to uni. They'll kind of know. So I don't know how it's gonna go, whether I'll be able to keep going with it, because I'm doing geophysics, which you wouldn't have thought from someone who posts art all the time. Yeah, I like to read about rocks and stuff. Yeah, so you wouldn't have thought that, but I do. So I'll just see how that goes. But yeah, I'm still going to create. I'm going to bring out a post today, hopefully, and it's been a process, but it's been one I've thoroughly enjoyed.
It's so cool to hear that. And I mean, obviously I tracked it, but I feel like your story is so relatable, or could be so relatable for others in this space who are curious about what's happening, especially we're in like the middle of this mini NFT boom at the moment, where a lot of eyes are coming into this space and seeing that, wow, like people are spending hundreds, thousands, and now hundreds of thousands of dollars on like this NFT art, right? It's pretty insane. And then for folks to kind of hear your story going from not a hater on art, but like a skeptic of the NFT art side of things.
Yeah, exactly.
To being a selling artist in this space, it's really dope. And I mean, I also feel like your personality is super well aligned, right? Because there's so many tools that folks can use to make this kind of art, and it's all about like experimenting. And you're someone that kind of like, you go through a lot of iterations with things, and you kind of like, you put yourself on a nice like reoccurring schedule where you kind of like go at it again and again. Like you saw that with the Scent Map and Music Mondays. I feel like our personalities are actually kind of similar. I mean, I used to do the same thing with like the body, and then just like posting pretty frequently. And that sort of like constant experimentation is exactly what this space is kind of made for, because when things hit, it's like you get paid for it. And that's like the most
exactly
validating feeling I personally feel in the world. Right? There's no better thing, because it's like that's the ultimate signal.
Yeah, I feel really lucky to sort of be in this space, because I feel like if I was to showcase some of my things in the traditional art sense, it would just be, I feel very lucky to have been on sort of sense very early, and to a degree the digital art space pretty early, because arguably, yeah, it's developing very quickly, but it's still in its early stage. So I feel incredibly lucky to be in that point where I can kind of sort of make waves and not be completely swamped over by hundreds of thousands of artists around the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel it is very lucky I feel anyway, when someone buys one of my pieces, I'm like, oh, thank God, because that someone could see it in the first place, because that's the issue of traditional art. Like, people barely even get seen, let alone bought pieces and put in galleries. Because that's what I like about NFTs. You can be on the gallery, you can put your thing out. Like, yeah, the internet's kind of developed, so the traditional art space is kind of heading that way in the sense. But it is nice when you can be on that front page of Rarible or something, and so many people can see it.
Oh, totally. And if it weren't for this space, I mean, I wouldn't be involved in the art scene at all. Like, I wouldn't be going to galleries and like collecting art. Like, it's totally not my vibe, and it's not a very approachable world, in my honest opinion. Mm-hmm. But like with this, where you don't need to show up in any particular space, you're not being judged by these old established circles. You're free to kind of create whatever you want. some people will make, or not some people, a lot of people will make like flubs. Like they're not going to make anything that anyone likes, but there's the security being on the other side of a monitor, right? Where people,
Exactly.
it doesn't really matter if they don't like it. It's just like, you're just kind of experimenting. And the creative talent that I think this kind of safe space will unlock is just going to be remarkable. Like, we're just scratching the surface. We're only a few thousand creators deep in this space, in the NFT art space in particular. So as more folks around the world kind of hop on and get on board, it's just like, oh my God, like what is going to happen?
Yeah, it is. It's such a nice community. It is unbelievable. I've been welcomed with open arms. So with Sense, it's so positive. Like that's kind of why I was able to create Sense Map, because so many people were willing to be, yeah, I want to be part of this community. And it just really does show where everyone's from and just how good the world can be sometimes. Because sometimes we do look too much at the negatives, but there are a lot of good things in this world. I know that was a bit kind of preaching, but it's nice to think sometimes.
Oh, for sure. And that engagement, that positivity, that thoughtfulness that I came to love Scent for, I feel like that's permeated out into this greater NFT space, right?
Me too, yeah, definitely. Yeah, even on the Discords and everything, there's just everyone's so willing to help each other out. So when I was kind of struggling with these softwares, so many people were kind of willing to help me and give me advice. And I was like, oh, how would you even make something like that? How would you, because I can't draw at all, which is really surprising because I did, so GCSEs are kind of like what you do when you're 15 and 16. They're like the national level for Britain. So I decided I was going to do GCSE art because I liked art. But I couldn't draw anything. Like if you asked me to do a self-portrait, the best I could do is a very tall stick man. That's literally the best I could do. And I was like, right, what am I going to do? And then I break my finger playing rugby, of all things. So I know it was my right finger, so I couldn't draw or do anything. So my teacher was like, oh, do you know who does a lot of cast work? I was like, oh, who? And my mum also recommended this artist, so Anthony Gormley. I'm not too sure whether you've heard of him.
No.
Have you heard of the Angel of the North? It's in Britain. It's in England, north of England. It's this massive sort of angel-like sculpture. If you haven't, I recommend you look it up. It's pretty cool. So it's made by this artist, and he does loads and loads of sculptures and sculptural work of basically a lot of this human anatomy. So my teacher's like, oh, Nathan, he does a lot of cast work, because this man, he literally puts himself in a full body cast, which takes like a team of 3 and a snorkel, and it's just unbelievable. And it's kind of weird because I'm pretty sure he gets some sort of fetish from it, to be honest. Because he's like, oh, I just love being enclosed. He's one of these like proper artsy type. But anyway, so he makes these great human sculptures from it, and they're really geometric. And I think that's almost, so I kind of developed that sculptural work, which was so useful because I loved art, but I couldn't draw. So for someone who loves art and can't draw, it's kind of, you wouldn't think it works, but it can. And that's where, in my opinion, digital art comes in. You don't have to be this incredible painter or drawer, which you do have to be in the traditional art space, in a sense. You can just do glitchy things, these pixel things, these physics simulations, which for someone like me, it's amazing. It's just so helpful, because if it wasn't for these softwares where they just do it for you, I'd be absolutely screwed, to be honest. So in the end, I was making these balmy, absolutely crazy sculptures. And you have to do these things called like black books projects, where you display all of your work. And everyone was like, oh, GG, how you like. In the end, I got 4 marks because I'm quite good at just bullshitting my way through describing my art. And I was like, oh yeah, this means this and that means that, because they love it when you connect things.
Yeah.
And like one of the things which is quite cool, if you have a circle, it's got um it's got, let's just say, loads of points evenly spread around it. And if you assign a number to each of those dots, so you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you do the 2 times table, so connect it up, you connect the 1 to the 2, 2 to the 4, and so on, you create this pattern called a cardio pattern. So I was making this sculpture, and it is kind of cool. So if anyone is interested, just look up 2 by 2 cardio pattern. And the headmaster comes up to me. So this is the head of the whole school. And he's like, what is this? I'm like, I have to explain it to him. And he's like, right, okay. Because he kind of knew that, just like, because I kind of was just joking with myself, like, I'm not a proper artist. I can get away with it, describing it. So, yeah, the headmaster kind of acknowledges this, and we both have that kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of how I've approached the NFT space, just kind of that definitely geometric sort of sculptural sort of, because I've made a lot of pieces with revolving sculptures and things dropping everywhere and a lot of geometry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done art in real life at school level, whatever, don't be afraid to kind of carry that on into the digital space, because it can be done. Don't think you have to be some amazing artist, because I'm certainly not, and I managed to get away with it where I could sell a piece for, a couple $100. So yeah, my advice is don't be afraid to everyone who's kind of joining space and being overwhelmed like I was.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I like your revolving 3D pixel work. It sort of reminds me of like what Cody has done with some of his deconstructed
Oh yeah.
work,
Mm-hmm.
where he places it and then he has like a virtual camera and then he kind of like spins around and you can see the different perspectives. It sort of kind of reminds me of that, because you have to get it at that right angle when you actually see what it is that you've created.
Honestly, the time it took for me to do the first one was unbelievable. It's such a process. Now it takes me a good kind of to an hour and then however long to render the whole thing. But that's another thing. It can take a long time, and I know a lot of artists will know that. But with it being digital, you kind of, it's like a computer game almost. You kind of get better and better at it, and you just become quicker. But yeah, that first one, oh my god, that was the Vitalik blue Turin, so I made him blue.
Yes.
I sold that one for 0.25 recently, which was rewarding. So I've done lots of stencils of lots of people. I'm planning to do a few more. And I forgot what his name is. It was Anthony Pompliano. He made a recent post about how he's going to, or how he has even invested a lot more in digital art. So I did one of him, and if I didn't say myself, that's one of my best ones. I managed to just get that sorted, because sometimes I don't know why it just won't work. I just can't get the things to line up, or I can't. It's just the wrong image. It's the wrong kind of colors. For this one, which I've done recently, which I posted on Twitter and I'll post on Cent soon, it just all worked. So I kind of called him out. So I was like, hey, Anthony, are you going to invest in this? Are you what if you could invest in yourself and digital art, But because he's got so many followers, of course he hasn't replied. But yeah, I have minted it, so he can make an offer on it. I dare him. I take the bet. Go on, I dare him if he's listening to it.
You hear that, Pomp? You've been called out. Shots fired.
No. I'll probably just gift it to him at some point. I'll give up. Just here it is. Just take it.
Yeah, I mean that's another approach. I mean it's very cool. Like you're already in more than a handful of collectors' collections, right? And
Yeah.
it's a really interesting place to be in. And when folks come in, I mean, of course, like Pomp is like relative to the scene, like definitely a whale for sure, right?
Hmm.
A new whale. So getting their attention early is something really important. And I was just talking to Josie, who, I mean, she's pretty famous because she's kind of gone out on her own and established her own brand within crypto art. Um, I guess first listing and creating her storefront on OpenSea and having to be her own marketer, having to be her own like dealer, intermediary, promoter, blah blah blah, everything, right? And like getting your name out like that and doing stunts like what you're just talking about, like it's part of the whole game, right? And so I mean, it's kind of like laughable, but it's also like sort of what you need to try to do to see if that works, if that's what gets the attention to you, because it's an attention game at the end of the day. But I'm really curious because you are obviously like very young, and I'm very curious, like what are your mates at school like? Do they know what the hell you're doing on the interwebs? Do they care about crypto, or are you like the lone wolf in that regard? What do folks around you think about crypto? Maybe if they know about crypto art, like yeah, I'm curious about that.
Well, one of my best friends, he actually got me into crypto to begin with. So he was like, "Oh, Nathan, have you?" Because he's really into sort of banking, and he's going to do economics at uni and everything. So he's like, "Oh, Nathan, have you heard about this thing called XRP?" Which I know is a bit of a
Oh
buzzword.
no! Oh no!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, "No, what the hell's that? What do you mean?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." So I kind of got into crypto through that, and then it was on the news and everything, so you couldn't miss it. Um, but yeah, his dad wouldn't let him invest into it, and he was like, he was looking at it when it was like pennies. So he was really annoyed with his dad, but maybe his dad was right. Who knows? But anyway, so I got into it through that, and then as I said, I got into Cent really luckily. But yeah, I don't want to tell my mates about this. I like being this sort of relatively unknown figure on the interweb, on the NFT land space. The only person who really kind of knows everything that I do about it is my girlfriend, because I can't really hide it from her. I can't be like, you know, she walks in, I'm making this piece of art. I'm like, oh, it's nothing to me, because then she'll get pissed off and worries that I'm like doing something dodgy. But no, to be honest, I haven't told my mates at school. I just don't think they'd be that sort of into it. To us, a lot of my mates aren't really the arty sort of type. But if I was to go back, I would 100% show my art teachers some of the things that you can do, because when I walk around the kind of art studios at school, there's a lot of paintings, there's a lot of everything. And there's a couple of pieces of digital art. I'm like, oh my God, these are great. Only if like you guys knew. So I might go back as a visitor and kind of show them what everything's about. Um, but yeah, so I made a artist Instagram, and I followed it because I've got to get the follows up. And
Yes.
my, so obviously because of the algorithm, the internet watching over all of us, my friends out of nowhere get it recommended to them. So they see all these art pieces. They're like, and my profile pictures, the GreenGiant, well played,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, picture, and
The
they're
old
like,
Telegram sticker, right?
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was crazy. That was so long ago when that was
Damn,
made.
that's a throwback. Yeah.
um, But yeah, so that was my profile picture, and it does look like me. It's just green, which is good because I'm green giant. That's how I want it. And they're like, "Nate, is this you?" I'm like, I just didn't reply to them because I was almost like too embarrassed to kind of go in. But eventually I was like, yeah, yeah. And they were like, all right, mate, do you? If I just do what you enjoy, I'm like, okay, cool, thanks, guys. Cheers. But yeah, I just don't think they'd understand, to be honest. I think if I really, really pushed it into them, they'd be like, try and hop on the crypto train at the very least, because they'd be, attracted towards the money side. But in my opinion, crypto is hard to get into. It's like having to get Coinbase, get that all sorted out, buy some Ethereum, do this and that. It's a lot easier with kind of Fortmatic now and just doing the phone thing. But if you kind of haven't heard about it, it's quite hard to get into this space. So I think Cent and anything that can bring it to someone through with social media is really important, because it's projects like this, like Sense, that can really sort of make it an attractive thing with the social media side, because that's just what everyone, or especially people my age, that's kind of just what they're interested in, social media. So if you can push that agenda and show that it's not just complicated numbers and horror stories of people losing out on $200 million and everything, then I think it'd be more attractive. But at uni, I haven't got lifelong friends who I'm a bit embarrassed to show my things. I've just got completely new people. So, I could see if there's a blockchain society or something really nerdy like that. So a digital art society, I could start one. Why not? I could kind of show all these new people what it's about, and then make a few friends through that. But yeah, I haven't managed to work on my school friends yet, but maybe after this I'll get some more confidence and give it a go. I can show them this. I'll be like, "Hey guys, have you been on a podcast?" No, I didn't think so. I could show them that.
Oh, totally. And then, I mean, like you're a selling artist. I feel like that's sort of the jump off point, right? Before you sell some work, before you earn like a certain amount of money through this in crypto, like on Cent, right? It's sort of like, well, can I really say something? But then when you reach that point, it's like, actually, I've earned like thousands of dollars doing what most people do for free.
Yeah, I was so lucky to kind of go on Cent, build a platform of followers, because being there since the start and sort of people knowing who you are just made it so much easier to showcase my art. Because if someone new who's a great artist who's got really good stuff comes onto Cent, it's so much harder than, let's say I put out the average piece to hundreds of people. They're gonna give it a lot more praise and a lot more attention than this amazing piece of art from kind of someone who's just joined. So I felt really lucky to build the platform, then do my art rather than come on with the art. And especially because everyone's doing art now, it's going to be quite hard. But it's just a grind. Like with me, I was making posts every week, and that's kind of it gets people's attention. If you can get spotted by you, for example, or Cameron, or just anyone who's kind of big on the platform, that's when it'll sort of kick off. You just got to be consistent. So yeah, thank you for promoting things, because that's helped a lot. So yeah, so to anyone who's joining, and it's going to be hard to start, because I remember when my very first post, I had no idea what I was doing. So I just saw this gingerbread man on the floor, and it had its arms eaten off. So I took a picture, and I was like, because I'm doing geophysics, I'm environmentally kind of aware, or at least trying to be. So I was like, oh, this is just wasteful. I hate this. I'm going to make a post. I'm gonna call it gingerbread murderer, and I'm gonna get loads of people to get behind a green revolution on Cent. I'm gonna do this, and obviously that didn't kick off. But yeah, don't be worried about making just completely random posts. They don't have to be the greatest posts ever. It's more consistency, in my opinion, and just getting stuff out there, and being lucky enough to get found, and then have it going from there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about that consistency. But once, and it doesn't have to be consistency. For other people, it could be something different. It could be just coming in and making a big splash, which is like an amazing work or
Yeah.
track or album or whatever, right? But it's getting that reputation, that baseline reputation established, and then building on that from there. And I feel like that's sort of like the gateway to what's happening with crypto. And that's what makes crypto sort of like fundamentally interesting. Because once people know and recognize you, it's like, well, there's money there. And then it's just like, okay, what can I do to actually get a share of that? Like, what would people pay for?
Yeah.
Right.
On Cent, one thing that's really important, which I haven't mentioned, is replying to posts. Because a lot of
Yes.
people are worried about making themselves known and getting their posts out. But one of the best ways of getting known is just replying and making good replies and earning spots and rewards. Because I make more money through rewards through replies than my actual posts. Like,
Same.
because when I'm putting on a 100 cent spot or something, the chances are I'll get 5 cents back from it. But it's just getting it out there. So yeah, replies are absolutely massive because I know my loyal repliers. I know the sort of people, and I'm much more willing to kind of give them their attention. And if you are making posts and someone replies, if you kind of say your response back to them, that'll mean a lot as well. So it's just going back and forth, creating conversation. That's really important because we go along about art and the posts, but it's also the general participation of the community, which makes sense what it is as well. So that's really important. Just wanted to mention that.
Totally. And then I'm curious now, since you are a selling artist, like who have you collected? Have you started collecting any other art in this space or NFTs or anything? Like what's in your crypto wallet?
I'm too nervous because it's kind of really hypocritical because I'll put on a art piece. I'm like, oh yeah, 0.2 ETH sounds about right. Yeah, that's what my art piece is worth. I've worked hard. Yeah, I've put a few hours into this, blood, sweat, and tears. This is 0.2 ETH or something. But then when I see an insane piece, which is 0.2 ETH, I'm like, get out, I'm not buying. That's far too much. I'm not buying that. I can't afford that. So it's just this really hypocritical cycle where. So I need to start looking at the cheap art because I remember when you bought a piece for what was it, $40 and then sold 1,000. I was like, oh, okay, I really need to actually start. I need to. You could, man, if you got any tips on how to find some cool new artists, that would be insane.
I mean, I published that whole ROI art collector's guide. It's all in there. It starts with like just loving the piece and coming across and be like, I like this. And then, I mean, literally the next step is putting a sell price on there, right?
Yeah, you've got nothing to lose really, because with some of mine, it is a bit of a gamble. Some people you just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I put that 0.2 ETH, I don't know whether I'm going to find someone like me who's kind of hasn't got a lot of money and who's like, not too sure, or I'm going to find some absolute whale who just sees that as absolute pennies and is going to be like, of course I'm going to grab that. So it is a bit of a gamble, but yeah, definitely what you're saying about just putting a price on it. And what was the percentage return that you made of it again?
So I made a 7,400% ROI, and then like I think it was about 7,200%, two separate pieces.
Beautiful.
Both from Max Osiris.
That's just music to my ears. That's a high number. That's like crypto returns from the start.
Yeah,
That's
it's insane. And I constantly sharing it these days because people are like, can you really make money off of NFTs? And it's like,
yes,
brother, sister, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think what you said about you just got to enjoy the piece is so important. Actually, because the way I've been going about it is kind of, oh, will this make me money rather than no, you got to forget about the money, just enjoy the piece and then enjoy the process. I think that was really positive what you said about you just got to enjoy it and not worry too much, because if I worried too much about whether some of my pieces are selling or whether they're selling or not, I'd go insane. I'd be checking it every hour. I'd be like, oh, has it sold yet? You've just got to enjoy it, really. So that's great advice.
100%. I mean, it goes both ways as a creator too. Just because you have such a close connection to anyone over here, you can kind of like, I mean, I do this all the time. That's what I'm doing with you. But that's what I did with Max last year. Like, hopped on and recorded a spotlight with him. And it was just like, holy crap, this guy is next level. Like, he's such a bright guy, but he's such an artist. And he's really doing his thing. And it's just like, wow. It kind of, yeah. I loved his art beforehand, but then I realized he was on a whole different plane. Mm-hmm. And those sorts of conversations are super informative, like just from a collecting standpoint. And it makes you realize, like, oh man, I need to add more to my collection of this particular person. And I feel like that's really beneficial too. And then you start to see how they interact and you help promote. And it's just like this virtuous loop that arises from those interactions, and reinforcing and purchasing more and seeing other people kind of glom on. And it's really interesting. It's still super early, so only time will tell how long this will continue, or what other permutations it'll take, or what other actions will be required to achieve some of these awesome returns. But it's really interesting so far. So
yeah, 100%. You've just got to kind of, as you're saying, talk to people. And if you kind of get good connections and people get to know you, then it's the ability to talk to someone and kind of promote your thing, it's just so much easier. So I thought it just kind of came to me where I'm probably going to make a few posts about anyone wanting to kind of swap pieces of art.
Nice.
Which is kind of hard, because you could go, oh yeah, if you send it to me first, then yeah, if someone makes a cool dart based off that, we'll take, if they've listened to this, we'll take a percentage cut from that.
Yes. But before we wrap up, I'm curious if you have any shout outs, or if you have anything that you want to say to leave the listeners with before we wrap up. I think that'd be cool.
I'd say just enjoy the space. Feel privileged. Well, privileged is quite a strong word, but it can be privileged to be so early in the space. Because man, I feel so lucky to be in the position I am. Like, I don't know why I'm here, why I've just been making posts about music, about trading, about other good things on Cent, and all of a sudden it's just gone to me making some art. So just enjoy the space, enjoy making art, and take everything as it comes. And man, it's so early, but it's going to be a fun ride, and I'll see you on the other side.
There we go. And I just want to thank you for being such a positive force and so consistent, and sticking through the good and the bad developments that have happened on Cent. It's definitely a journey, and it's hard for a lot of people to stick it out, but you're definitely one of those OG Centians who has stuck with us. And it's I'm just super thankful. And to see you progress and develop as a creator and artist in your own right, it's a privilege, I think, to be able to witness that progression.
If I can say one more thing, if I can go from loving Cent to going off it for a bit because of art stuff, and going, what on earth is all of this art? Give me back, give me the old stuff, but then to being where I am today, if I can do it, you can too. You can ride the wave of crypto.
There we go. So thank you so much, and keep on creating, man.
Thank you too, man.
Cool. Cheers.
Hey again, this is Matthew. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode. And just want to give one more shout out to this month's sponsor, Connie Digital. Make sure that you follow him and go check out his latest updates at danky.art. And definitely, if you're not already signed up, make sure you join his email newsletter by going to conniedigital.com/join and filling in your email address and ETH address. That's conniedigital.com/join to join Connie Digital's email newsletter. Thank you all, and see you on the next episode.
Cent Podcast. Cent Podcast. Cent Podcast. Cent Podcast.